I could not go any further. I reached out and I touched her arm and I said, "Are you going to buy something now?" She said, "Yes." And I handed her a $5 note and I said, "Would you please order me a cup of cappuccino? I can't move very well right now." She took the money and went to the stand. And I went to near my table, shuffling along with my legs aching because my muscles were trying to pull me forward and hold me back at the same time. She brought me my change and joined her friends at another table. And I sat there and I drank my coffee. And I watched the other shoppers as they went by. And when I was ready, I walked over to her table and I said, "Thank you so much for helping me. I have Parkinson's disease. And when my medication is low, I don't have any energy." And she told me that her husband sitting next to her also had Parkinson's disease. He and I are among the 80,000 Australians who are living with who have Parkinson's disease. Now, I'd like to ask all of you, how many of you were aware of Parkinson's disease and its impact before it affected you? How many? Can you put your hand up? Okay. Well, this is why we're here today, to learn more about Parkinson's and before it intruded into your life. And we're here today to learn more about Parkinson's and how we can minimize its devastating impact on our lives. Parkinson's disease has been described as a designer disease because every case is single, is unique. Every case is different. Every story is different. Today I'm going to share with you my story in the hope that it might help you to recognize and to accept that Parkinson's disease does not define who you are or what you can offer to others. There is so much information out about Parkinson's disease, and what I tell you today is limited. It's only the tip of the iceberg. I can only touch upon my own experiences of living with Parkinson's. What is Parkinson's disease? It's described as a degenerative, progressive, debilitating disease of the central nervous system, the brain. It is second in prevalence only to Alzheimer's. There are neurons in our brains that produce a chemical called dopamine. And dopamine is essential for smooth muscle movement. If you don't have enough dopamine in your system, your body slows down. It's like a car with oil. If you have your oil running out of your car, being used too much, and it slows down, the car will stop. Well, that's what happens to our bodies. They stop. There's no definitive test for diagnosis of Parkinson's. Some patients wait years before they're diagnosed. One, for example, had 12 years of medical tests, and CAT scans, and blood tests, and even major surgery before it was discovered he had Parkinson's disease. By the time diagnosis is made, 80% of those dopamine-producing neurons are dead. You're starting off at a disadvantage when you got diagnosed. Patients with Parkinson's disease are described as being at one stage or another, depending on their symptoms at the time of diagnosis. They can be early, middle, or late. So what are the key symptoms of the early stages of Parkinson's? The lack of dopamine plays an important role in the early stages of Parkinson's, especially in terms of the physical symptoms that people associate with Parkinson's. For example, the tremor. When people have a tremor and they start off with their initial diagnosis, it may only be one part of one side of their body, or just part of their body. And it can be any part, but usually it starts off on one side, the symptoms. Rigidity. Your muscles tighten up and you are not graceful. That's what I said. You're not graceful anymore because your body is too stiff and you have trouble getting in and out of cars and things like that. Balance. Balance is essential to prevent falls. And one of the things that is affected mostly by the brain is the balance, the ability to stand up and not go down. And you're slow to move. Plus there's the illegible handwriting. Your handwriting starts off normally, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you can't read anything. Mentally, Parkinson's affects your ability to memorize, to remember things, to think, and to focus. And this can really be limiting to someone who is in a professional business situation or even just at home. If you can't think, if you can't focus on things, I bet how many of you, with or without Parkinson's, given our age, go into a room to do something, get in there and stand there. What did I come out here for? Go back to where you started, and then remember. Does that happen to a lot of you? With or without Parkinson's? Yeah, well, that's age. That happens to all of us anyway. Well, my story, I'll tell you. When I was a little girl, I told my mother that I wish my mouth went all the way around my head so it would not get tired when I talked. Well, it doesn't, but I don't. I never imagined that it would be a challenge for me to talk. I was lucky to be diagnosed relatively early in 2005. Because my mother had Parkinson's, I recognized some of the signs that she had. For example, my foot would just slap, my right foot. It wouldn't go properly. My right arm didn't swing. My sister said I walked around sort of like, I think like this, with my wrist, my arm there, and not swinging. You're not conscious of these when they're happening to you, but I had trouble brushing my teeth. I had to get an electric toothbrush for the first time because I couldn't brush my teeth with my right hand. My handwriting, as I said, became smaller and smaller and smaller. And that was, as far as I'm concerned personally, that really was bad because I was used to going to lectures and things and taking handwritten notes that would get all the information I wanted for later. But my handwriting was such I couldn't do that. I had difficulty with my memory and with thinking and focusing on tasks. And an experimental dose of cinnamon from my neurologist reversed all my symptoms. So that was it. I had Parkinson's. In the beginning of the stages of Parkinson's, the initial stage, we're told that the progression of the disease is usually slow, and that the symptoms are treated as they arise. Well, there is, in the beginning, a honeymoon period. And you don't feel that Parkinson's is such a bad thing then, because you take your medication, and it works, and you switch off. My brother will tell you that when I was walking with him in 2012, with him and his grandson, that we're walking around Dangar Island, and I was started off with my medication on the low side, and then it kicked in when we were walking, and that took off, like he said, the Energizer Bunny. He couldn't keep up with me, or his grandson either. And I hate to say this, but I really sort of enjoyed that because of the notoriety I've had in the neighborhood of going so fast. But then, and the symptoms also during that time are not really debilitating. They're mild, and they're not disabling to you. But then, sorry, we won't go about that yet. It's very important from the very beginning to have a close relationship with your doctor. Medication you take is, we are at the mercy of our medication range. I'm certain that none of us would object to having some performance-enhancing drugs. And we wouldn't get in trouble. And the most critical aspect of Parkinson's from the beginning is the communication, as I said, with your doctor. And this is necessary so the medication can be given to you that will help you minimize the impact of the disease as soon as possible. It's very important that you know your medication and what it does, how to take it. I spent 10 years of my 13 washing down my cinnamon with milk. That's because in the book I read in the beginning it said sometimes cinnamon can cause an upset stomach when you take it with food. I didn't register, it was there, but I didn't register that the food was not to be protein. Mm-hmm. So here I am, going for 10 years, drinking milk with my pills. And I got to the stage where nothing was working. And I contacted my doctor. But before I went to see him, I made this discovery with my reading again. My God, I've been taking milk for 10 years. My husband and I would buy $300 worth of milk on online shopping, so we could keep up with it. And when I stopped taking milk with it, guess what? I bounced back. And I think I'm stronger than I was when I was drinking the milk. So you have to know. And the timing that you have to take your pills can be very important. One patient only had a window of 15 minutes. If he did not get his medication within that time, he started to sweat heavily and he couldn't move for a long time. Another thing that's really important is to know the potential side effects that can be quite devastating. One man is suing 3 major pharmaceutical companies because there was no warning on the medication given to him that it could cause compulsive behavior. And he lost his home, his family, his job, and $3 million gambling. And it was due to the medication as a side effect. Now, moving on to the next stage of Parkinson's, the honeymoon is over. When your medications, your symptoms become unpredictable. The medication gets you down, wears off quicker. And the period of time between the on and the off is smaller and smaller. And when you're off and you hit that barrier, it is immediate, instantaneous loss of energy, coordination, and concentration. So we are now into the middle stage of Parkinson's. That's normally within 3 to 5 years. Again, it's critically important to work closely with your doctor and to find the best combination of medications that will minimize the impact of these new symptoms that are coming on to you. Most patients notice changes in their ability to move and control their movements during the day, during this time. And half of the patients will experience some of the symptoms of the disease, which are listed and can have severe repercussions on our life. For example, balancing is critical. Ability to balance is critical because it can lead to falls. And you know the danger of falls whether you have Parkinson's or not. Someone who has a poor sense of balance is more likely to fall than someone who doesn't. Involuntary movements. Anybody notice that I'm moving? Really? I've had people come up to me in the shopping center in Hornsby and say, "Can I help you?" I'm like, "What am I doing now?" And memory. The inability to remember a simple list. For example, when I was in high school and university, I took, as I mentioned the handwriting, I took extensive notes for every lecture I had, and I almost could get the whole lecture in my notes. And it really helped me during the high school and university. And then later, in the different careers that I created for myself, I could write and write and write. And now, with the memory, I can't remember how to do string a list of 4 instructions together. My husband will tell me to go buy such and such at the shopping center when I go. And unless I have a big written down paper to get it, I will probably forget it. If I have it written little, I'll probably forget to look at it. So the memory is certainly affected. And then from that, and there are many more symptoms that I'm not even covering at all today. But then we move to the late stage, and that's 10 to 15 years. But I must say that many people with Parkinson's live 20 years or more. They can be like that. You don't know. But in the later stages, it's common for the motor or the movement. It's common for the movements to be limited, and psychiatric problems and cognitive problems can develop in spite of the use of medication. The disease spreads out from the areas of the brain that are dependent on dopamine to other areas of the brain. And some of the features that do not respond to medication, standard medication, include balancing, swallowing, thinking, bladder, bowel, and blood pressure problems can arise. So we know what Parkinson's is, and we know a lot of the symptoms about it. What happens with us living with Parkinson's? Well, as discussed earlier, every Parkinson's case is unique. Each story is personal. And all of us, although all of us suffering from Parkinson's will experience many of the key symptoms, which are not obvious, but we may not even be aware of them until they challenge us. So you can have these symptoms around you and not recognize them as symptoms. And let me ask you a question. How many of you have trouble turning over in your bed or getting out of your bed at night, especially in the wintertime? Please raise your hand. Oh, yeah? Huh. Well, I have to tell you, I've solved that problem. With my satin nightshirt and my satin sheets, when I get into bed, I can slide from one side to the other and chase my pillow down the wall. And, think about it. If both of you were to wear satin, there'd be no telling where you ended up. My profession. What about the impact on Parkinson's on other parts of my brain? I've noticed for some time a definite decrease in my ability to focus on intellectual work, such as teaching, preparation of lectures or speeches, or doing my accounts. In 2008, I realized that my 13-year teaching career was coming to an end because I could not do a simple task. I was trying to match 4 speakers to 4 evaluators. Now, I was teaching environmental management students how to give good seminars to get their message out to the world. And I could not match 4 speakers to 4 evaluators. And I stood up behind my desk and I said, I can't do this! And fortunately, a friend of mine, also in Toastmasters, came and worked with me in the class. So that was 2008. In 2011, she took over the program. So we still had the information going out to our students, but I couldn't do it anymore. We have physical challenges. We have increased periods of dyskinesias, which is the extra movements. And it can affect any part of your body. It can affect your face. It can affect your arms, your legs, just everything. And I know that body language is very important in terms of Toastmasters presentations. And it was something I was really good at. But now I really have a lot of body language. and it can be distracting to other people. Sometimes, well, most of the time, I'm really not aware that I'm doing it as much as I am. But the medication is there to reduce it so it's not so obvious. And also, I think my husband says I eat too much. I think that's because I move around too much during the day. Freezing. You know all about freezing, don't you? That's when you're walking forward and all of a sudden your feet stick to the floor and you cannot move. There are, fortunately, strategies that can help that. But freezing is not responsive to medication, and it's affected my life in several ways. One, it's threatening my independence. I'm still at the stage that I can go to Hornsby from Denver Island in my own boat, pulling the motor and starting my boat and going over to Brooklyn and tying up and going into Hornsby by train. We don't have a car, so everything we do is by train and bus or whatever. And I can do that and go by myself and do everything that I need to do. But it also can be frustrating, freezing. I have my train ticket. And I stick it in the machine at the station, and the little door opens. I take my ticket and I stick it in the machine, and the little door opens, and I go through. It can be frustrating. And also, it can be frightening. I have had instances of when I've come in with my boat, where I've gotten it all tied up, and then the medication ran out, and I'm stuck. I'm standing on the seat of my boat, having to step over onto the pontoon, and I can't do it. I can't move. So I started to cry, and I cried and cried and cried. And I got all the frustration out of my system, and then I was okay. But it can be frightening. And another aspect of it was being frightening is the chance of falling. But there are ways that you can handle that, because we were talking today about the use of exercise and how important it is. Mm-hmm. Vigorous exercise program can reduce the potential of falling and the symptoms of your disease up to 40%. The thing is, it has to be an exercise program that challenges you, that makes you sweat. You have to think big, and you have to think range of motion. For example, if you were doing arm circles, I'm going in the chair. If you're doing arm circles, you don't want to do this sort of thing. You don't know. Full volume, full extensions, everything. You want it to be fun, enjoy it, and it doesn't matter what kind of exercise it is. In my reading, more and more, it doesn't matter whether you're doing it walking, running, riding a tandem bicycle, dancing, exercise class like I go to now, senior exercise class. It doesn't matter what you do, you want to have fun doing it, and you want to enjoy it so that you can do it again every day. Every day, minimum of 30 minutes of vigorous exercise will help you retain your quality of life, because you're holding those symptoms back. They're threatening you. In my senior exercise class, which I go to twice a week, I do Tai Chi on that other day. In my senior exercise class, they do an assessment, a regular assessment of participants. And I've had 7 assessments since September 2010. And in those assessments, I'm actually stronger than I was when I started in 2010. I'm regularly lifting 2-kilogram weights, and I do something what I do. Lift 2-kilogram weights. I push myself on every exercise. I don't care whether it's walking back and forth on the room, whether it's taking the elastic band and putting it around your shoulders or your feet and moving your body to it. I go as hard as I can, as fast as I can, and I drip with sweat. And I love every moment of it. And it works. It works so well that I just want to show you something, okay? How many of you have ever seen a 65-year-old woman with a bicep? Have you seen that? Well, that's fine. I have another one. carry bags of groceries up 49 steps to my house. Sometimes I've gotten to the mainland by the train, in which case, you know those little shopping trolleys that you roll around? Trolley, full to the brim, up the 100 steps and down, and then to the boat, and up the 49 steps to the house. That's one reason why I'm fit. And I've done that for 40 years. So in addition to building strength, when you freeze, you can turn your conscious mind onto the problem. You don't normally think about walking. It happens, doesn't it? But when that part of your brain, the automatic part of your brain is not working, go to somewhere else and train yourself. I'm frozen and I can't move. But if I say to myself, big steps, big steps, big steps, I can move. Sometimes they're not very big, but I'm still moving. I have to say that I believe that people who have Parkinson's are leading a triple A life. Awareness. You are aware of what's happening to you in your body. You're aware of the emotional impact on your family. You're aware of the support that's available to you in terms of Parkinson's New South Wales and other organizations. You are aware. The second A is adaptation. You have to be able to Parkinson's. You don't have a choice. You may have to adapt to where you live, your physical activities, but you have no other choice but to adapt, and you do. And the third A is acceptance. You have Parkinson's disease, but it doesn't define who you are. You can be angry, bitter, frustrated. You can live life like that every single day. But that's not good. That's not a good life. You can accept the fact that you have Parkinson's, and you will never be free of it. But you can still have a full life. Absolutely full of love, and support, and help, and confidence in who you are, because you're who you want to be. I know that those of us with Parkinson's will never be alone. Worldwide, 6.3 million people have Parkinson's disease. And Parkinson's New South Wales, a not-for-profit community-based organization, is an invaluable resource to those whose lives are affected by Parkinson's. As a newly diagnosed person, it provides comprehensive information on the latest research, ways to cope, counseling, and support for those living with Parkinson's. And the search goes on. Here in Australia, the search for a cure is conducted by organizations such as Shake It Up Foundation here in Australia, which is in complete partnership with the Michael J. Fox Foundation in the United States. And all the money, the funds, go directly to research. There's no middle people involved. There's no administrative levels to get through. It all goes purely to research. And I'm encouraged and hopeful when I see what I saw last week. Just a second. Within the last couple of weeks, there's an article in the newspaper about a biological marker that has been discovered, which can end up being one of the early onset indicators or diagnostic tools. Now, it's still being researched, but in the tests they've had so far, 95% of the people who were tested were able to detect this biological marker in the blood cells by taking a blood test. So that sounds very wonderful. And then a strange one that I had a few months ago, it was in the Scottish newspaper about a woman who could smell Parkinson's. Did any of you read that?
Yep.
Yes.
Now just think about that. If they can isolate what it is in the molecules that are coming to her that she's smelling, isolate that, that's another early onset. And the reason that's so important is the earlier you can catch Parkinson's, the less damage you're going to have, the less of your dopamine-producing neurons are going to die. So keep your eyes out, open, and look and see what's happening. But it's really exciting. There's so much research going on around the world. It's so different than when I first started in 2010. No. 2005 is when I was diagnosed. When I first started there, I looked up on the internet exercise for people with Parkinson's. And they were sitting in chairs and doing this sort of thing. You know, they're being very carefully handled. But that's not what we're going to do. So, in conclusion, I'd like to say that whether I'm on, or whether I'm off, whether I'm frozen, or whether I'm mobile, it doesn't matter. When I first started speaking, I worried about being turned on to on or off when in the middle of a speech. But that's very effective. It can be very effective. Linda and my brother and others have seen me before speak, and I'm up there speaking, and I'm not in an on position, I'm in an off position. And on this particular time, I'm giving my talk, and then I say, oh, something's happening. And I start striding around, and it's just, that's good. It was just so much fun. But the difference between the on and off is so evident. It's not so evident nowadays, but it still doesn't matter because I still have an important message to give to everybody. I know that I can make a difference. So I know that I'll never be free of Parkinson's disease. What does it mean for me in the years ahead? It has opened so many doors for me, and I am thankful that I can see them as opportunities to learn and to grow. I know that there will be slow times. I know there will be low times. But I know that these times do not define who I am. My daughter told me, enjoy your moments of inability. Have you ever thought that there could be gifts of time from your angels just to sit and to be? This can be a time for reflection, for building inner strength, and to prepare for the next step in the fight against Parkinson's. In my own way, I'm fighting back. This is my 14th community presentation. And because my symptoms have changed over time, I've been challenged to change my presentations. I will be giving my 5th presentation at the Hornsby Library in September this year. During Parkinson's Awareness Week. And every other presentation has also been held at the library. And I believe that I am contributing. So I volunteered to be a subject in research with the Brain and Mind Institute at the University of Sydney. And on Monday, I go in for my 3rd assessment over the last 3 years to see how I have progressed in terms of Parkinson's. I have willed my brain to research on Parkinson's, but only when I'm finished with it. But most importantly, I know and I believe in myself. Like everyone in this room now, we only have now. And believing in ourselves and knowing what we can do, that can be a huge gift to others, because all we can do is live now. So whether I'm off or whether I'm on, I will do as much as I can, as hard as I can, for as long as I can. I will never give up. Thank you.
Yes. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? Ralph?
Can you swim?
I could before, but now I can't control my legs and feet. And I ended up going into panic because I would be trying to kick and my legs were going everywhere. And I would, even in water this deep, I would panic and go down and doggy paddle and sink. And no, I don't swim now.
Jocelyn?
I was just wondering in what way the early detection through the biological markers, for instance, in what way the early diagnosis helps. What can be done with the earlier intervention to slow down their loss of dopamine, which you suggested?
What was first? Let me show you one thing first. This is my Bible. See the tabs? This is Living with Parkinson's, Diagnosis, Treatment, and Management by Gabrielle Rogers. And one of the things that happens with as I said to you, 80% of your cells are dead when you're diagnosed. Because we don't have a system to diagnose people that's possible, these cells are being destroyed all the time. But if you can catch that early enough and treat it with medication and actions like dancing and all those things. Shadowboxing. Oh, I was boxing for a while. I loved it. Anyway, you catch that early enough, you're going to prevent those cells from dying. And that means that you're not going to go through all the stages of the first and second stages. And that's why it's important to get I really have a mental block right now, but to get a marker of some sort that we can use for early diagnosis. I think it would be like catching cancer. If you catch it early enough, you can take care of it. But if you let it go, then you're not going to be able to do anything, or it will be very destructive to do something. Okay? Any other questions?
Right. Well, I think Judy has certainly given us a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And really one of the main answers is exercise is the best medicine.
Yes.
Day and night.
That's right. They have in satin. They are not in
Anyway, you've certainly given us a lot to think about, and I think really we must dwell on what you've said and really make up our minds that we are going to hit this thing on the head.
And the exercise can be anything.
Yes.
It's what you enjoy doing well, hard, and so on. It doesn't matter what exercise it is. But in my exercise group in Brooklyn, the other thing that it has done for me, what Parkinson's has done for me, is I've lived on Dangar Island now for 43 years with a 15-year gap at universities, and the rest of the time I've been there. And I didn't know a lot of the people in all that time, because around the island people have their own wharves and things, and they go and come to their own place. We don't take the ferry, so we don't meet the people who don't have wharves. And for all those years, we didn't really know many people at all. Maybe 2 or 3 people would be on the island that we were familiar with, good friends. But when I went to the exercise class in Brooklyn, I ended up with such a group of friends. They're my life support. I can't be without them, because we have such a cohesive group. And the age of that group starts at 65. You have to be 65 to start. And they go as high as 80 at this stage. Now one day I was having an appointment with my neurologist, Dr. Watson, and when I got up to go, he got behind the chair and he's holding it. I said, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm holding the chair for you." I said, "I don't need that." And I started popping up and down on the chair, and I said, "We do 30 of these in a class, in an hour. And push-ups against the wall, and running back and forth in the hall itself, and weight training, and the elastic bands, and we do the whole lot." And it is so exciting, because I have these wonderful people now as a permanent part of my life. And I did not have that before Parkinson.
Well, once again, thank you all.
Excuse me.
Please.
Can I just say something? After hearing Judy talk before, I was desperate to get some satin sheets, and I couldn't find them anywhere, but I've traced them down now. There's a shop in Tarramurra that sells them, if anyone wants them, because it's in the shop that sells disability. No,
The nth degree? The nth degree?
The other end of the shop's here?
Just on the highway?
Yes.
Yes.
And they do work.
Alan would like to.
I was just going to say, sheets, there are sheets made especially for Parkinson's people. The first section is cotton, then the satin and cotton,
Yes,
and they're Victorian.
That would be, in reality, I think that would be better than 2 satin sheets, because I found I can't keep the top sheet because it keeps sliding off. and having the triple material, cotton, satin, cotton, you can move in the middle of the bed, which is where you're going to try to get out. But you're not losing contact with everything. So that, I saw that just recently. When I first started looking, I couldn't find satin sheets. But they recognize that it's important. Some people who listened to me before have gone out and gotten their satin sheets.
Anyway, once again, let's give a good clap.